Oshkosh Media, opening access to local government on GovTV, providing a community voice on Life TV, and community-based radio on Oshkosh FM.
Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report, a look at city updates and municipal news, and a preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda. Your hosts, Emily Springstroh of Oshkosh Media and City Manager Mark Roloff.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for your City Manager's Report, your source for all of the local latest and greatest news and updates right here in the city of Oshkosh, as well as a preview of the upcoming Common Council meeting agenda and some of the hot topics that will be discussed at the upcoming meeting. I'm your host, Emily Springstroh, joined as always by our City Manager, Mark Roloff. Welcome, Mark.
Great to be here, Emily.
It's great to have you, as always. We've got a lot to talk about today, as always. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the hot topics around town. For the first half of today's show, we'll take a little break, and then we will return with a preview of the upcoming meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 25th, 2018. So, Mark, first thing that we want to talk about is a report that recently came out. It's called Municipal Facts 18. It's put out by the Wisconsin Policy Forum. Now, these have been made public, and it's a great example of comparisons with similar cities to Oshkosh as far as debt and things like that go. So kind of maybe give us a little bit of background on your experience with this.
Oh, the Wisconsin Policy Forum is actually a joining of the former Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance and the Public Policy Forum out of Milwaukee. And they used to do a lot of detailed reports out of the Public Policy Forum on the city of Milwaukee. When they came together, they said, maybe we should do this for all the Wisconsin municipalities, but let's start with the larger ones first. So they've done a report of Oshkosh with our about 9 other peer communities, and some are in the area, some are outside the area, but similar sized. And it's interesting because there's always apples and oranges you're comparing, but I think it's important to take a look at some of these items, and I'd encourage people, we're going to put it on our website, so you can have a chance to look at it, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of them that came out of the study, which I think are maybe some things that we've mentioned before, but the fact that it comes out from another group kind of lends some objectivity to this, but it also helps us tell our story a little better. And, one of the things we talk about, people are always going to be concerned about taxes. Right. I'm concerned about taxes. Everybody's concerned. So we have to take a look at what are the components of taxing and spending. And one of them is basic spending. And the first chart that we're showing here, we're towards the lower end on basic spending. Now that's net spending, but so there's a different definition for that, but we're on the relatively low side. Although for the most part, the communities are pretty tight there, so it wouldn't take long for us to get to the middle of the pack. But that kind of sort of a middle of the road discussion. Sure. There's been there are other topics in there. There's police expenditures, fire expenditures, but the other one is the property tax levy, and this is per capita, so this is per person. So even though we have a relatively high tax rate, and I can't deny that, but as you can see from this, from a per capita standpoint, we're on the lower end. We're not the lowest, but we're one of the lowest. We're probably second on this after Janesville. But there's a lot of them that are lower towards us. But you get an idea that our property tax levy, we don't generate as much per capita as other communities. And then finally, I think there's one that needs to get pointed out because it doesn't reflect on us positively. And we've talked about this with council before, and they've asked us to get our debt limit down. And this is, I got to point out, this is as of 2016, but this is our maximum borrowing limit. We can't exceed that 100% figure. In 2016, we were at 73.6%. Compared to our peer communities, in this case, we're the worst. In those other two, they were more favorable, yet our general obligation debt, and that's because of all the catch-up we're doing on capital improvements and things like that. So that's the price we're paying with that high level of general obligation debt. I'm happy to report that at last night's budget workshop, we talked to council about that. We're already down to 64%. That still puts us at the highest amongst our peer groups. So again, we still have a long way to go. But Finance Director Trina Larson and I explained to the council last evening that maybe what we need to shoot for is somewhere around 50%. And then we got this report that said, yeah, 50% is probably in the ballpark with your peers. So that is an appropriate goal for us to pursue. So we're going to be discussing that with council a little more. We pitched the idea of developing a plan to get ourselves into that area, but it's going to depend on how the economy goes, because we need to improve our property values. Economic development's very important to get that figure down. And if we can get it down, then maybe we can absorb a little more debt. But we're currently limiting our debt, and we're going to need to continue to do that. But we're making progress. I'm very pleased with the progress we're making, but we still have a long way to go.
Definitely. And so this report is an interesting look at how we compare to some cities that are near and far in Wisconsin. I believe they all are. And like you said, this will be available on the city website if you're interested in viewing it in its entirety. Looking at all the details, there is a lot of information in this report, and it's a great resource. So thanks for a little bit of a highlight on that, Mark. We're going to move on down in the first half of our program here and talk about a little bit of a recap. We promoted this the last episode of City Manager's Report. You were a speaker at an informed electorate presentation that are taking place at the Oshkosh Public Library. And what you were a part of was the dark store one. So tell us a little bit about how it went.
Well, I think it went very well. Both sides. John Damel from he's the chair of the Chamber of Commerce with Zeroni's Pizza. And I've known John for years, and we get along great. And so it was interesting to have two people who really get along disagreeing on a topic. Mm-hmm. And John is certainly taking the Chamber's take on that, which comes from Wisconsin manufacturers, which is really leaning towards benefiting the larger stores. But I focused on the fact that this is really a tax shift. And there were some good statistics that John pointed out from the Chamber that some of these businesses pay a lot of taxes, these big box stores, but they are high property value, and property taxes are based on property value. If you go buy a big item at a store, you pay a high sales tax. In this case, it's property. So it's really a matter of just making the case that is it equitable for businesses to get a break on their property value that you and I can't get as property owners. So that was really the city's take on it, and we're still continuing to do that. But John gave a good perspective from the business standpoint, and I certainly respect that, even though I don't agree. But we had a very good time doing it, and I'd encourage people to watch. I mean,
yes.
It was more lighthearted than you'd think it was, because this is a pretty serious subject. I'm pretty passionate about it, but you have to respect other people's opinions, and I think we did a pretty good job at doing that.
Right, and it's a great it's a great way to educate yourself on the issue and hear from both sides of the situation too. Oshkosh Media was at this presentation, so it is available on our website at oshkoshmedia.org if you're interested in seeing it. We also have been covering all of the informed electorate presentations at the public library, so those ones that have already taken place are also available on our website. And then we just want to give a little promotion for the upcoming two that are left coming up next week, September 24th, Tech for Voters, and then on September 27th is a fake news panel. So these are all really great ways that the library is trying to kind of inform our citizens as the upcoming election approaches. So very happy to do that, and we were happy that Mark was able to get involved in that this year too.
It's a great program from the library. Their job is really to help inform the public and help the public make their own decisions. So yes. I think that they really wanted both sides of the issue, and I think that's appropriate. And so and those other two panels are pretty good as well. So I would encourage people, if you want to be a little more informed about things going on, take a look at the programs that the library is putting on.
Yes, definitely. So moving on, another thing that we want to touch on here, Mark, is the upcoming special meeting that has been scheduled by the Rental Housing Advisory Board for October 2nd at 6 p.m. It's in room 404. And this is a very important meeting because they are going to be collecting public input and talking about the upcoming rental inspections program update. So this is very important. They're looking at 3 different options, and they want to hear from the public on what they think would be the best option.
The Rental Housing Advisory Board's been spending a lot of time looking at what they can do to comply with the new state law. It's changed quite a bit, and limits on what things we can do. So you may say, well, I'm not a landlord. Why should I be interested? Landlords should be interested, and renters should be interested. Mm-hmm. And then the general public, if you're concerned about if you've got a lot of rental housing in your immediate area, you may want to take a look at this. We're going to be discussing options that the Rental Housing Advisory Board has been looking at and how we can approach doing rental inspections in the future. So October 2nd, I believe that's a Tuesday, up here at City Hall, room 404. It's going to be an open house at 6 p.m., kind of, freestyling it for the first half hour, and then a more formal presentation so that it can get summed up for everybody. And I think that's a great program for the Rental Housing Advisory Board to present to the public. And I really want to encourage people to attend this. This is very important for our rental housing community.
Definitely. And we will also, Oshkosh Media will be covering the presentation that will be taking place. So if you can't make it to the meeting, we'll have that posted on Facebook and on our website. And then an additional way that they are collecting public input is through the POCO citizen engagement application that we have. So we'll encourage you to go ahead and respond to the poll that will be posted very soon on POCO to give your input on this issue. So definitely look forward to this great meeting that's going to be very educational and insightful, and we'll see you on October 2nd.
I'm going to just bring up something because you reminded me with that when you mentioned the POCO survey. I'm not going to be doing the council meeting next Tuesday. I'm going to be out of town at the International City County Management Association conference. And our friends from POCO and I will be making a presentation. We made a presentation at a Midwest Regional Conference. We're going to be making a presentation at a national conference about how we're using POCO for citizen engagement. So we're very proud of what we've been doing with citizen engagement and want to encourage the public to be more engaged. And this is just one tool, but it got some interest at the national level after our presentation, so we're going to do it again. So I think it shows you that we're doing everything we can to engage the public, and we certainly want the input. So hopefully they'll come to the October 2nd meeting.
Yes, and I'll give one other plug for our POCO site as well. You can sign up and make an account to give your input. You just had to visit polco.us/Oshkosh, and it'll take you right to our page. So moving down our list, we've got one other little recap that we wanted to give, Mark, and that is the Howard here in Oshkosh had their grand opening and ribbon cutting, which was very exciting. It was earlier this week, and it's just a really fun, historic piece of Oshkosh that's now open.
Yeah, it was open to the general public, and sometimes you wonder what kind of crowd you're going to get on a Monday morning. Mm-hmm. But it got a great crowd. It started out slow, and then boom, the place was packed with people. So it was very exciting. I think you have a lot of curiosity seekers, people who went there when it was the old Eagles Club, and you got to get a look at this place.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
They've done redevelopment, and one thing I will say, they did all that redevelopment without any city or public support. They did this all by themselves, and it sounds like they're going to have a little dinette with a coffee shop, and you can see, if for those of you who've been there in the past, look how beautiful it looks. The stage is gorgeous, and below, they've also restored their old bowling alleys at the Eagles Club. So if you have an opportunity to go to an event there, by all means, I'd suggest going and checking it out. For those who've been here a while, it'll probably bring back a little nostalgia for you, which will be fun.
It's so fun, and it's another great example of the revitalization that's happening in this area of Oshkosh, right on Washington Street, that's being redone, and it's just a really exciting time, and we look forward to a lot of great events being held there. So now it's that time of the show where viewers have the chance to ask their city manager anything they want about things that are happening right here in Oshkosh. That's right, it's Question Mark. So let's go ahead and see what the question is this week. All right, Mark, perfect segue is, when will Washington Avenue be done? We're talking about all the great things that are happening along that street. Now what's going to happen?
Well, I think we heard a lot of those questions at the Howard grand opening.
We did.
They've been very patient. Well, it's on schedule for completion in early November, but people are getting impatient. They want to know, sort of like, are we there yet type of thing. And we're not there just yet, but we're doing okay schedule-wise. The utilities are actually going to be completed the week of September 24th. So by the time the council meeting rolls around, it'll be pretty much done on the utility side. Then we got to fill everything in, get everything graded, and then start the streets, which include pouring concrete for curb and gutter and things like that. So that does take a little while, but Dan Gabrilska, our engineering inspector out there, who does a wonderful job, tells us that They're on schedule for early November, so we'll, if things change, we'll let you know, but I feel pretty confident that weather permitting, we're going to be okay.
Awesome. So just a little over a month yet that we got to wait. And then we also definitely want to encourage people to subscribe to the email update list that they have available for different projects in the city of Oshkosh. It's all located right on the Oshkosh Public Works page through the city website. And there's a specific list for each project that's happening. So you can definitely personalize the information that you want to have sent to your inbox, and it's very easy to sign up. So we encourage you to do that, stay in the loop. And another great question from Question Mark this week. So thank you for that question. If you'd like to send one to Mark for the show, send it to us on Twitter, post it to our Facebook page, or go ahead and email it to us, and we'll have him answer it on the next episode of City Manager's Report. So with that, we're going to take a quick break on CMR, and when we return, we'll go ahead and dive into the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 25th. We'll be right back.
Holding a phone takes precious attention away from the road. That's why handheld cell phone use is now illegal in Wisconsin work zones, and fines start at $40. Driving deserves your undivided attention. It's about safety for workers and for all motorists. So when you see orange cones, please put down the phone. The Wisconsin DOT urges you to help us achieve 0 deaths on Wisconsin roads.
It is sad but true that for years, some people have been using storm drains to dispose of their wastes. Storm sewers do not treat or clean up anything passing through them. Everything that enters a storm drainage system is eventually discharged in exactly the same form as it entered. These wastes can kill plants and destroy breeding areas. Never pour or dump anything down any storm drain.
Welcome back to City Manager's Report. Thanks again for joining us. Now it's that time of the show where we are going to take a look at the Common Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, September 25th, and we're going to go through some of the highlights that we might see at the meeting this Tuesday. So, Mark, the first one that we want to talk about is the public hearing, and this is the adoption of the City of Oshkosh Comprehensive Plan Update 2040. So, what exactly is this plan?
Well, 2040 tells me I'm going to be really old when this plan gets done, so that scares me a little bit. But it is a long-term look at what we're going to be doing from a land use standpoint, and some of our ideas on visions on how we want to carry forward things that we've identified on so many different plans, whether it's our Sawdust District plan or our downtown Central City plan, Riverwalk, Riverfront plans. All of these different plans that have been discussed, you really need to bring them all together, make sure that they match up and align with one another, and there's different elements to the plan. And we've been working for the last 2 years with East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, our planning staff, and some extra assistance and expertise from East Central. And we've got a draft plan. It's gone through through a committee, and it's also gone through the Plan Commission. And now it starts the formal public hearing process for adoption by the council. So this will be the hearing, and then 2 weeks after that, the council will likely be voting on this plan, unless they want to tweak it or something like that. But it's gotten a lot of review, and I think it'll be moving forward in the next month.
It's very exciting. It was a huge project. It is available on the website for people to take a look at because there is a lot of information in this plan since it is such a long-term plan. I guess for next steps, once this plan is adopted, it's going to be used as a guide for future projects?
Sure. The next thing that happens is that you start taking a look at how we want to do zoning. Do we need to do any corrections with our zoning to make sure it's consistent with our comprehensive plan? You really use this as a roadmap to make sure that you're getting to where you want to be in your destination. You may take a different path with zoning or a law here or a rule here, but this keeps you on course so that by 2040, the goals we've laid out are going to be achieved because we've been planning it for 20 years now.
Excellent. Well, it's great to see something like this that is so anticipatory for the future, and we look forward to go ahead and perusing that plan on the website too. Moving down under consent agenda, Mark, is the change order for the Aviation Business Park water main loop. This is in the amount of $137,000. So tell us exactly what this project is. We haven't heard the Aviation Business Park for a while on the agenda.
Well, if you recall, one of the last things that we did as we were finishing up the park was recognizing that we could have better water pressure in that area. It's very far south, it's far away from our water towers, and so what we came up with was, let's loop the water towers on the southwest part of the city over by County N, over near Plainview Plaza, and connect it in there, and that's actually a high pressure zone. So the idea was, the last phase of this is to go on Ripple Road, go under the airport, and cut across Ripple and go underneath Highway 41 over to Washburn, and that'll connect us with what's called a high pressure zone. And the last phase in this is installing this water loop. So this will provide a much better reliable water source for not just the Aviation Business Park, but the southeast side of town where a lot of industrial areas are existing already.
Definitely. So a great improvement in this area. And then this also brings about the question, as we're on the Aviation Business Park, what about the taxiway? There's been a lot of talk about that. What's the update for that?
There's been a lot of talk, and I'm happy to report, in case you haven't followed the county board meetings, the Winnebago County Board just approved funding for the taxiway. I believe it's going to be in 2019. They have to get some matching funds, but they're willing to put up the matching funds at the local level necessary, and so we're real pleased that they're going to do that. That'll enable folks who rent property at the Aviation Business Park to have what's called pass-through agreement, that they can get onto the airport right from their own businesses through this taxiway. They needed the taxiway. It's an
important part of it.
Physically connect it was an important part, so appreciate County Executive Harris and members of the Winnebago County Aviation Committee for all their help in finally getting this through.
Wonderful news, very exciting, and it's great to see the work continuing in this area. Moving down a few items, we have the approval of the employee health and dental insurance agreement. So Mark, briefly kind of give us a little bit of an update on that.
Well, we had reported to council initially, we were worried about an 8% increase in our health insurance. We were able to get that down to 2.5% when we previously reported to council. We're coming to council with a 0% change in our health and dental insurance, and that's a huge part of personnel costs for the city. So now we've had some good experiences, which helps, but we've also been working with our insurance company on things we can do to keep costs down without really reducing benefits for our employees, and we were able to do that. So I'm very happy. This is going to help us better balance the 2019 budget, and this is a big step towards that.
It's a big deal. It's great to see such a positive thing coming across, and not having too much of a change, or any change at all, I guess I should say, in that. So moving down under new ordinances, Mark, we've got the approval for the closure of Oshkosh Avenue from POCO Street to Fox Street, and this is going to be kind of a big deal if this goes through. So tell us about what we're going to be expecting if they approve this.
This is going to be a pretty big disruption, so everybody pay attention to this. Council still has to approve this, but as part of the contract we had to improve sewer in that area. And again, this has very little to do with Oshkosh Corporation project. This was planned even before the Oshkosh Corporation project was unveiled, but we need to put a crossing on Oshkosh Avenue at both Fox and POCO Streets to get sewer crossings down there, and the sewage from that area then goes under Sawyer Creek over to the sewage plant. So these are going to be 20-foot deep holes in the ground. So the road is going to be closed for 3 to 4 weeks, and I'm sorry to tell people that we have a law that says you can't close Oshkosh Avenue, so council actually has to formally waive that rule. Really? by a city ordinance. So now the designated route to get around this is, I believe it's going to be Keller, Witzel, and Sawyer. I know we're a lot smarter here in town. We know our ways around, but you need to be aware that beginning, I believe it's going to be around the 1st of October, This is going to be closed. So you're going to have to make adjustments. We've notified the university so they can do their routine with their students and staff and faculty, plus visitors. I mean, the Titans football team's doing well. If they host a playoff game, they're going to be it's going to be disruptive. So we want to make sure everybody is aware that the street will be closed, and you're going to have to find your way around it. And So you're going to be hearing this a lot over the next couple of weeks because I can't deny it. It will be a big inconvenience, and we want people to be aware. Plan ahead, and you'll be fine.
Definitely. And we will be posting information on the city website. We'll be putting out a release very soon once this does get approved, and we'll hopefully keep the public as informed as possible so that you can plan your trips ahead of time and not have to have any headaches due to this closure.
Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everybody that it's going to be closed.
Right. Moving down, under council discussion, direction to city manager, and future agenda items, we've got the recommendation on Oregon Street between 8th Ave and South Park Ave, configurations, geometric, and parking layout. This has been a big conversation over the past few weeks as there was a loss of parking and the city's been working with business owners. So tell us a little bit how these meetings have been going and what the next steps are going to be here.
Well, it's been a mixed bag with the meetings. I think the meeting that we had with the property owners out there went fairly well, but not many people came to the Traffic Review Advisory Board, and so we want to make sure that people are still aware of this. Some of the things that the businesses pointed out is that just by nature, people like very, very convenient parking. So right on street where it's right near the front door is the most convenient. But they also point out, can we do more with parking? So we did point out that there's actually 3 public parking lots in this area that people may not be aware of. There's one on West 8th Avenue, just east of Oregon Street. Then there's one on 10th. And then there's also one between 9th and 10th. So you can see that between 9th and 10th, there's pretty good sized parking lot. And then the one on 10th, that's a gravel lot. You may not even realize it's a public lot. Frankly, we haven't paved it because the usage hasn't been very good. But it is very convenient for the public.
It's right behind all those businesses right there.
But you got to walk a few more feet. So that's one half of it. We're looking at options to increase the amount of parking on street because we know that's the most convenient, that's the most desirable, and that's what businesses have expressed an interest in. So the council's going to be discussing this and giving direction to staff on what they want the final ordinance to look like. The council hasn't adopted the final ordinance to change parking there, so we still have one last shot, and we want to hear from the public. And I know we have, Facebook's been alive and social media's been alive, but the idea is we want to make sure it's safe for turning movements for trucks, and that's the way we designed it. Now we know the impact on parking, so we got to balance those two things out.
Great. Well, thank you for the recap on that and the updates. So again, we encourage people to come to the council meeting if they have any other public input on the issue. And then finally, Mark, the last thing that we want to give one little plug to is early absentee voting is beginning for the November election on October 15th. It's going to run through November 2nd at City Hall. What are the positives to taking advantage of this?
Well, if you don't think you're going to be around on election day, you absolutely want to get in to vote. There's other options to vote, but the one that people most think about is the one here at City Hall. It's basically during regular business hours, but it starts Monday, October 15th, only runs through Friday, November 2nd. That's by law. We can't go later than that. But it's 3 weeks. A lot of communities are only doing 2 weeks in advance, so I think we're doing a pretty good job with that. Whatever you do, bring your photo ID because that's the state law now. But there's other options as well as far as mail-in and things like that. So yeah, check out the city clerk's website.
Great resource. Go to the city clerk's website on the city website. They've got all the information laid out there for you. You can also find your voting ward and everything else beyond that as well. So we encourage you to check out the city website, clerk's department. Great resource. So with that, Mark, that's going to wrap up this episode of City Manager's Report. We're out of time. So as always, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Again, the Common Council meeting is this Tuesday, September 25th at 6 p.m. You can watch it live on GovTV and on our website, oshkoshmedia.org, or you can listen to it on 101.9 Oshkosh FM, which is also online and on the TuneIn Radio app for mobile devices. Make sure you like Oshkosh Media on Facebook or follow us on Twitter for all of your community and government programming and updates, or check out our YouTube channel for government meeting replays and past episodes of your favorite programs. As always, don't forget, if you have a question for City Manager Mark Roloff, send it to us on Twitter at City of Oshkosh, post it on our Facebook page, or go ahead and email it to us and he'll answer it on the next episode of CMR. So once again, thanks for joining us today on City Manager's Report, and we'll see you next time.